Thanks for tuning in to the Two Cents Podcast. I'm James Daniels.
And I'm Hannah Williams. So, this week is kind of like a bonus episode. I would call it an intermission of sorts. Last week was our season finale, but this week we kind of had a buffer. Our amazing editor, Amanda, is on a well deserved vacation, and we didn't actually have an episode planned, but I was like, I want to show up in some way and be like, hey, like we're still here. And there's something I do want to talk with you all about regarding women's sports. If you are a women's sports hater, five, four, three, two, one. See yourself out.
Bye.
Bye. Bye bye. But I do want to have a much needed discussion, I think, about the WNBA and whether or not they should be doing more to support women's sports and whether or not women's sports haters actually might have a point. But before that, I do want to share some exciting updates about things that are going to be changing moving forward. We hinted at it in our season finale. Well, actually, I think we talked about it straight up, but we are going to have our episodes changed to instead of Wednesdays, they're going to come out on Tuesdays. 2 Cents Tuesdays.
Yeah, Two Cents Tuesdays.
2 Cents Tuesdays. Let me never do that again. But not only that, we're also going to have a slightly different format. You get the both of us, but bonus people, because we're also going to be doing interviews with people on our own team, like literally our agents, our full time team member, but also key experts and thought leaders in our network.
Yeah, over the time that we've spent, being in the creator realm, we definitely made a lot of great contacts and they've taught us a lot of things. And I think that they can also teach you guys a lot.
Those are going to start coming out next Tuesday, so stay tuned. But I did want to have this conversation with you all about whether or not the WNBA is doing enough because so much has happened recently that, like, I kind of feel like the WNBA are sort of the ops,
Yeah, the enemy, the opposition.
kind of like the wolf in sheep's clothing of sorts. And let me back up my argument and kind of like how I got to this frame of thinking. So, first, I want to start by talking about Unrivaled. Unrivaled is a new 3-on-3 women's basketball league founded by the WNBA icons, Napheesa Collier and Breanna Stewart. We've been watching it.
Yeah, whoop, whoop. Shout out to those ladies.
Hooty hoo!
Hootie hoot.
I would say pretty confidently I'm actually more of an Unrivaled fan now than I am of the WNBA, and it is a slightly different format, the 3-on-3 versus the 5-on-5.
Yeah, it's definitely more intriguing, and I definitely have become more of an Unrivaled fan than a WNBA fan. But I can say that through Unrivaled, I am excited to see how these players perform in the WNBA.
For sure. But what makes Unrivaled to me so outstanding, aside from the players and the action and the basketball, is the structure of the league. It's basically by players for players. The players in the league also have equity, so they have ownership in the league, meaning, how they perform and how the league performs puts money in their pockets.
Yeah, it directly reflects, they benefit from the league doing well.
Exactly. And also, the players are well compensated. They make like $250,000 each. You know what the rookie pay, like what Angel Reese made in the WNBA her first year? And Caitlin Clark?
I'm assuming probably like 95.
76.
That's crazy.
$76,000, which, like, if we're going to talk about, a basketball player relative to a nurse and, the importance of society, that's a different argument because then that means that the men and the women would be in the same bucket. But that's not what we're seeing. NBA players are sitting on the bench for millions of dollars, and rookies like Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese are making 76. The highest paid player in the WNBA makes less than 250, or if not, it's like 260 or something. Every player in Unrivaled makes $250,000, and they get bonuses because they had a one-on-one tournament. So
Which was amazing.
it was so good. It was so good. And if the players advanced far enough, I believe, to like the quarterfinals, semifinals, and the finals, they got bonuses. So Napheesa Collier ended up winning. She got $200,000, and she split half of it with the Lunar Owls training team.
Yeah, and part of that was because she was the winning player. Her team members also got $10,000.
Exactly. So it's like that to me is a standard. They're setting the bar for what it means to not only talk the talk, but also walk the walk, like putting your money where your mouth is. I feel like the WNBA, in contrast, is starting to stick out like a sore thumb. Let me back that up. Did you know that the Connecticut Sun share a practice facility, which it's literally a recreation center, with a public recreational
With a
center.
rec center.
Yep.
That's crazy.
They had a playoff run in the most recent season in 2024. They were literally practicing for a game to play the Indiana Fever. And they had like one of those barriers up between them and the other court, literally having like an aerobics class. They share their schedule with kids' birthday parties. That's unacceptable.
Yeah, completely. I mean, these are professional athletes. LeBron couldn't do the same thing.
And we're not
And
saying,
then, yeah, definitely not saying that they're on, like LeBron caliber, but at the same time, they're professional athletes who get paid to be professional athletes. The state itself should be putting forth that money, to be able to, provide them with facilities and stuff like that
yeah.
at minimum.
So that's a really good segue into my next point because I actually want to bring up our beloved Washington Mystics. If you didn't know, we are season ticket holders. Last year was our first year doing that, and we renewed them for this year. The owner of the Washington Mystics is Ted Leonsis, somebody that I had previously idolized. If you didn't know, I'm a Georgetown alum. I talked about how I went to Georgetown because of Ted Leonsis. But sadly, I feel like there's been a lot of performative support of the Mystics because I got an email recently about how 4 Washington Mystics games had been rescheduled. This happened last season when the Indiana Fever came to town and also when they had like camp days. The games, if you didn't know, the Mystics do not play at Capital One Arena downtown. They play at Entertainment and Sports Arena. I believe it's now called Care First, but real DC natives, I guess, call it ESA, so I'm going to call it that. But it's a beloved arena in Southeast DC. Sure, it has its problems. I'll get to that. But these bigger games had been upgraded to Capital One Arena and they sold out. Don't get it twisted. The Mystics sold out every home game last season and they had record viewership, not just for them, but league wide when the Fever came to town at Capital One Arena. So when I got this email that the games had been rescheduled, I'm thinking, oh, they're going to be at Capital One Arena. My surprise, they were rescheduled to Baltimore.
Yeah, to Baltimore of all places.
Which, like, no hate to Baltimore.
Yeah, no hate.
Love
but
Baltimore.
We are used to the game being in downtown DC. So
Mhm.
like either way, we're going to DC. We could understand if you moved the game to like Northern Virginia, or
The
maybe
other two
even
got
like
moved to Fairfax.
yeah, which is understandable. But all the way to Baltimore,
All the way to Baltimore.
that's a 2 or hour and a half drive.
Right. So I had the exact same reaction. I was like, WTF. But then I was like, let me try to be positive. Maybe it's because, ding, 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 there's a notice down below, Capital One Arena is undergoing renovations. So then I got excited because I was like, wait, renovations? Does that mean that the Mystics are finally going to get maybe a locker room or some ability to now host games at Capital One Arena? So I did my due diligence and I looked it up and I looked at the press release for what's actually going to happen, the plans, yada, yada. Absolutely zero mention of the Mystics. But the Washington Capitals, the men's hockey team, are getting a new locker room and new film room, and the Washington Wizards, the men's basketball team, are getting a new private practice facility. And none for Gretchen Wieners. Mean Girls reference.
Yeah, I figured.
So back to Entertainment and Sports Arena. I actually want to clarify, I prefer ESA to Capital One Arena.
Same, I do as well.
Yeah, it has a way more intimate feel, but it has its challenges. I love the arena on the inside. There's a lot that can be improved to food. Just my little note there. But aside from that, it has major challenges with infrastructure like the parking. There's one parking garage. It takes literally an hour to 2 hours to leave each game because it's all backed up. And also privacy. You can see the players through an open fenced gate going in and out of the facility. We've been behind players in the line in Southeast DC.
Yeah, in traffic.
In traffic. Like, that's not safe. I'm not going to tolerate Southeast slander. It's not a bad area, but also the buildings around are abandoned.
Yeah.
Like, and they're creepy. So I'm like, I don't want them to actually move full time to Capital One Arena, maybe a few more games, but why is there no investment being done in the team's infrastructure at ESA? Why is there nothing being done financially to actually support the players besides a LinkedIn post that is very performative?
Yeah.
The idea of having kind of like wolves in sheep's clothing in the WNBA isn't new. So I don't think you watched it. You were on like a hiking trip or something, but I watched this documentary on Prime that was created actually by WNBA players. It's called Power of the Dream. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend you do. But it talks about how in the 2020 season, COVID, height of the Black Lives Matter movement, there was actually a co owner of the Atlanta Dream WNBA team who was a senator running for reelection, huge Trump supporter, and big time anti Black Lives Matter. She basically went on record and trashed the Black Lives Matter movement. She publicly said that she didn't support the players, advocating for social justice, whether it was in their clothes or decals on their court. And the players pushed back because the WNBA has always been about social justice. Like they've always used their voice. So it was very like, read the room. How are you an owner here, but you don't even support the players or what they stand for? So they pushed back and they actually supported the person she was running against, Raphael Warnick, and he won. And she actually ended up selling her stake down the road. But it shows that, like, there are people in the league who are not supporters of women's sports, which brings me back to this entire argument that people who hate women's sports usually bring up that the NBA subsidizes the league and that it's charity for the NBA to be like helping out the WNBA. Now seeing that Unrivaled is a league founded by WNBA players, it's successful, it's seeing huge fan, engagement and support. I hope that that's translating into ad dollars, but it kind of just shows like women's basketball players and female athletes, like they don't need these systems that are just constantly tolerating slander. It's almost like you're trying to succeed in an environment that actually isn't built to support you.
Right.
Like if it was always a charity and you have owners of these teams that don't support the players or the things that they care about and advocate for, and then you also have owners out here who are just treating it as a charity case. They
Yeah,
make
who
money.
believe what these people are, saying when they slander the WNBA.
Right. So I think that there's a lot of validity to players having a lockout potentially in the future. I've seen a little bit of gossip about that, that they may not play unless they get higher pay. And you know what? Leagues like Unrivaled prove that they are founded in being upset about their conditions and their pay and the treatment that they get. They deserve more. And the last thing I want to say is that Unrivaled is actually wrapping this week. They have their playoffs and their finals. I believe it is Sunday and Monday. You can watch on TNT and Max. Just go to sports and it'll be right there. It's a great way to show your support for women's sports and a great way to show up if you haven't tuned in yet.
Yeah, so thank you guys for listening. We really appreciate you guys tuning in this week, even though this episode was a little bit shorter than what you're used to. But like we said, we got a lot of exciting things coming up these next few weeks for you.
Yeah. So we'll see you next Tuesday with our new interview episodes.
Yeah, so help us coin the 2 cents Tuesday and hope you guys hope you guys tune in next week.
Bye.
Bye.